Welcome to Framework Fortune and welcome back, Framework Fortune community. I'm your host, Ben, and it's time for another episode of Portfolio Power Up. And we've got our good friend and special guest returning to the channel, Charles Allen, a trailblazer in the cryptocurrency world right now. How are you feeling today? Bitcoin breaking over 65K, hitting all-time highs. You got to be feeling good.
Yeah, Ben, thank you so much for having me. It's exciting. Bitcoin's, as you said, broken all-time highs. Ethereum's back over 4,000. We've gotten ETFs, so I think the things are pretty exciting in the market these days.
Absolutely. So, as far as, the crypto market's definitely hot. It continues to build up and build up as more people are adopting. But the stock market, the current state of the U.S. economy and all the world economies, how are you feeling right now with that kind of negativity? It's kind of interesting with the dynamic as everything's going down. The U.S. dollar, stock market's been very sketchy and everything else going on while cryptos are going up.
Yeah, well, I don't think the market's all that bad. It's been a relatively good year to date. There's been a little bit of a pullback and then it's kind of come back up. But, overall, I think the markets are pretty good. Obviously the economies, things are still getting, back to normal, on a global scale. But I'm not terribly worried, at least from the kind of current economic outlook. So, and obviously crypto is doing great, which is, a benefit for companies like ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations, by the way. You went through with the uplisting, finally getting on the Nasdaq. I know that was on the plans for last time when you stopped by, so congratulations there. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was one of the goals we set out. We set it out in the beginning of the year. We saw a path to get it done. It took a little bit longer than we'd hoped, but we were able to, check that off the box, right, and keep going from there. So.
Now, I also saw that you pretty much just wiped the board of any share dilution that may be coming out. Is that something just for the short term, or you're just still trying to build that investment following of retail traders, investors? I know that's what your aim is. Kind of the same thing with decentralized currencies that you're into. It's kind of that same feel as what I see you trying to run this company like, almost like it is a type of project on the blockchain.
Yeah, well, what I would say is as we've kind of evolved as a company, we've done a lot of things, right? We've got to the Nasdaq, we strengthened our board, we've strengthened our team. Looking back historically, we didn't have the same financing tools as a company that, other larger Nasdaq companies would have access to. And, we had two different convertible notes, each is $1 million. We repaid one of them.
Nice.
And we had done that. We took out that note. And that was actually a home run. We took out a loan for $1 million at 12% interest, I think December 16th, when the stock was, on a reverse adjusted basis, I think $1.90. Mm-hmm. And, we're able to deploy that and repay it, 10 months later, when the stock was, around $6, right? So
Right.
that note could have converted at a 35% discount to market. Had we raised money in a convertible note back in, at the market, had we raised money at $1.90, that would have been huge dilution to our shareholders, right?
Yeah.
The fact we did a note, we've got a, multiple times increase in the stock price. And then even with a 35% discount, it still would have been a good deal from where we were in December, but we repaid it. So we took no dilution because we've done quite well with our business. So we have one other note that's outstanding, and that has a floor conversion price of 750. So the investor
nice.
can't convert below 750. If it goes above, maybe they want to, or we'll just pay it off, right? That's
Right.
very few microcap companies that take out convertible notes, repay them, right?
Yeah.
Usually they convert with, a decent amount of dilution. So I'd say we're in a pretty solid spot in terms of, the balance sheet to be able to pay off that note. So we're in a good position.
Yeah, and I'm just pointed out too that you're actually concerned about giving a good deal for your shareholders. You know, there's a lot of companies out there nowadays that really don't care that much about the retail investors. They have their private, you know, the first stock or whatever it's called. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the private ones, and then you have the public common stock. So
Yeah.
they take care of the private holders, but they a lot of times won't take care of the common shareholders, and that's what I see you continually to do is trying to work with them to help build
Well, it's
together.
me too, right? I mean, it's
Right,
me. Like
yeah.
I'm the largest shareholder in the company. I own common stock. I have no additional rights beyond, any other holder, right? As a common stock shareholder, right? So if we raise money, if we do a toxic convertible note, zero interest in doing something like that, I could get wiped out, right? Like I don't want to do that, right? And I don't want to do that to our shareholders. So, effectively management's in the same boat, albeit, a lot more restrictions on our ability to,
Of course.
sell to the extent we wanted to, right? I mean, it's, different rules to go by, but we have, zero interest in doing detrimental, toxic deals, right? We've grown out of it. We're on the Nasdaq. We've got, a shelf registration effective. Our last financing was at $10, right? And that was before uplisting to the Nasdaq. So that was a $9.5 million deal we did in March again, that was before the reverse split. So it was $1, but that was, would have been, $10 today. So, and I think we're a better company now than we were then, right? There's been a lot of operational improvements that we announced. The balance sheet's strong. We've executed on a lot of the things that we set out to do, such as uplisting to the Nasdaq and, moving forward with our, blockchain infrastructure segment.
Yeah, and just real quick for people who are just now finding out about BTCS, maybe they haven't seen the past interview. If you just want to tell them real quick, what the goal is with the digital treasury and securing the nodes for all of that. And I know you've added some coins lately, a couple of those I'm really excited to talk about and see what your thoughts are on those.
Yeah, and really what our goal is kind of, I'll call it maybe like asset leveraging, right? So we pivoted at the beginning of this year, and we're basically securing disruptive proof of stake blockchains. And to kind of put that in English, it's kind of like what a Bitcoin miner does, right? Bitcoin miners run, hardware that validates transactions on Bitcoin's blockchain. They're rewarded with, newly issued Bitcoins and transaction fees in the form of Bitcoin. We're basically doing the same thing, but we're doing it on, instead of Bitcoin's blockchain, we're doing it on proof of stake blockchains, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we're validating transactions on Ethereum's 2.0 blockchain. We've announced that we're doing that for Tezos, Cardano, Avalanche, and Cosmos, right? So it's very similar to what a Bitcoin miner would do. The difference is we don't have to buy the expensive capital equipment. It's more technical, and you have to lock up crypto and able to do that. What I'm most excited about is, step one is do it for our own account. And step two, we're not passively doing this. This isn't, some people refer to it as staking, but we're actively running the nodes. So if others come, right now it isn't open yet, but the goal would be others could come delegate to our nodes. And that's really like leveraging assets that you don't even have to take, control of. So in my mind, that's a much more scalable business, and you get rewarded in those underlying tokens. So if you're really bullish on, some of these disruptive blockchains, that's where there could be, in my mind, a lot of, you get paid in those tokens, plus you hold the tokens. There's both, revenue potential and appreciation potential, right? So you kind of have a, unlike with Bitcoin mining, you really just have the revenue potential and that new asset you get for doing the service, but your machines are not appreciating assets, right? Like if you buy a computer
and the proof of stake too, to point out real quick, the proof of stake doesn't have the carbon footprint that like you said, the Bitcoin mining and all that has. It has a lot higher carbon footprint.
That's one aspect. I mean, I don't think it's awful the amount of electricity Bitcoin uses, but again, compared to where else we utilize electricity as a society, it's it's not terrible. How much is being used to secure Bitcoin's blockchain. The question though is, if there are other solutions that don't require that, why not use those, right, as an alternative? And I think Bitcoin's, I mean, it's great. It's here to stay. We're, we have a big position in Bitcoin, right? And it has a, very unique kind of use case.
Now, you say that, Bitcoin's here to stay. I constantly have people, and I used to be on the gold bug side. I still am a gold bug, silver bug, but I see the importance of cryptos and the value in them. And I don't like to have the debate against gold or Bitcoin. I say, why not have both? That's just how I look at it. But I still get to, even this morning on the live stream, someone saying that, oh, Bitcoin is still tulip mania. What do you say to the people who call it tulip mania?
What it really comes down to, what is Bitcoin, what is money? And when you take a step back and look at what money is, what gold is, all these things are, money is just a record keeping mechanism, right? Yeah. Who owns what, right? And so why is gold a 10 trillion or 11 trillion dollar asset, right? It is because it's a societal belief system. People believe it has value. They believe it has value because it has scarcity, right? It's hard to get. There's a limited amount of it. And because there's a limited amount of it, it becomes an asset that can represent value and two people can trade with. It's very hard to transact with gold because you can't settle the transaction unless you're in person, unless you have a gold ETF, or it's like an IOU, right? Like people just store it. And I think that's, if you look at what Bitcoin is, it's another societal belief system that it has value because we've assigned it. It's a record-keeping mechanism. There's 21 million Bitcoin. And if you look at gold and say, okay, apart from electronics and jewelry, its main use case is a store of value because a government can't print more. You have to do a substantial amount of work to get more of it. It'd be like Bitcoin mining, right? There's all this work. And so what do you end up with? Gold's a $10 trillion asset that has really a use case of a store of value because of the societal belief system, just like the US dollar. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the US government.
Well, I would say the US dollar is even less valuable than gold. I look at the US dollar as just like a measuring stick of value. I don't even look at it as currency so much. It's just a vessel to change my value from my time over to Bitcoin, gold, any other cryptos, assets, real estate. I don't even look at that as a valuable money personally.
And what's most interesting, if you look at the the value of gold, right? Let's call that 10 trillion. And then you say, okay, well, if Bitcoin can serve the exact same purpose as gold, right? It has, if enough of a community gets around it, it's secure, it's transferable. Well, then it could be equal to a gold. So let's say Bitcoin could be, as a market cap, 10 trillion, right? If it provides the exact same use case and for society, it's a potentially $10 trillion asset, right? And so if it's at 1.25, just to keep math simple, it's just because it's had a nice run recently, if call it a trillion in gold's 10 trillion. Well, that's an easy, it could potentially, if you believe that argument, it could be a $10 trillion asset, right? How long and if it gets there, only time will tell. But if it was, that puts a Bitcoin price at over $500,000 right now. Do I believe it's going to get to 500,000? Who knows, right? The societal belief system needs to hold such that there's value, but there's a lot of institutions coming in as interest increases. I think whether I don't think that's going to take a year or 2 years. I mean, who knows? I don't want to put a price prediction out, but just looking at that relative value of what it does, you can get there. And then you look at the Bitcoin mining companies, right? I think the largest Bitcoin mining company is over $5 billion value. That's Marathon. That secures Bitcoin's blockchain. What to me is much more exciting is the internet, right? What's the internet? The internet's what's the best way to describe it? Probably a global information transfer system. Yeah. Right. You can transfer whatever you want. GPS coordinates. You can get an Uber. You can transfer, a video, a movie, a tweet, whatever you want. You can transfer information globally. What are blockchains? They're if you can build things on top of them, right? They are global asset transfer systems. Yeah. Right. And all sorts of things can be transferred on that. And so if you take I think the top four, proof of stake blockchains that are where there's smart contracts getting built on top of, call that, Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, a couple of these others, you get to something much smaller than Bitcoin. I think it's, $600, $700 billion. But if those could be as big as the internet, and the internet's let's call it worth, I don't know, 30 trillion, 40 trillion, right? It's a huge economic value. If those could be as a digital asset transfer system, as big as an information transfer system, well, you've got a huge opportunity there.
Well, I'd go as far as to I would go so far as to say as the internet is invaluable. I mean, at this point, if all of a sudden the internet dropped out across the world, most people wouldn't know what to do with themselves at all. So I would say it's even invaluable. And to have, like you're saying, this type of data transfer and ledgers, the Web 3.0 that we're going towards, the ceiling, I mean, is there even a ceiling possibly? And I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to go to 500,000. I'm not even that big of a Bitcoin guy. But I think, like you're saying, that data. And what got me excited, really excited 2 days ago, is you announced that you are adding Cosmos to your proof of stake, the Atom token, or the Atom coin, I should say. Now, Cosmos, I have been bullish on since Liam from Confident and Crypto in the UK came on the show and talked to me about it, introduced me to it. That ecosystem, to me, seems to have more potential than Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything, because it's not that they're building blockchains on top of, or building projects on top of Atom. Cosmos allows for them to build blockchains all around it and bridge to it, which they're also working on the bridging to Ethereum and everything else. So that right there seems like the most obvious path forward for this type of blockchain ledger systems. Is that the same value you saw in it, or what got your attention to where you like, I got to throw Cosmos Atom, or the board, or whoever makes all the decisions?
Well, so I think it's it's kind of a glue that can stick multiple blockchains together, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of many, right? Our view is, we want to focus on the disruptive technologies, right?
Yeah.
That underlying thesis of, if a digital asset transfer system can be as big as the internet, a digital information transfer system, the opportunity is massive. And if we can secure the invalidate transactions on the underlying blockchains on which those things will be built, whether that's NFTs, DeFi, interoperability between different blockchains, and build a scalable business model there, it's actually relatively low risk, right? Because we're not betting on like, hey, someone's going to build an app that's going to be the next greatest thing. It's going to be OpenSea 2.0 for NFTs on top of this thing. Like, I don't know, maybe it fails, maybe it doesn't. If we can just secure those underlying blockchains, and we're picking a couple of the ones that we think will be winners, right? And then trying to build an ecosystem where others can delegate to our pools, that to me is the most compelling, where it's kind of the most conservative, and there's a bunch we're looking at, right? Like, I don't know what's going to be the winner, right? I think we're very bullish on Ethereum. There's a huge amount of development there. I think the shift from proof of work to proof of stake, I think that could be a huge catalyst for development, lowering gas fees, just across the board. It's kind of a step in the right direction. Then there are a lot of other really exciting blockchains, right? Cosmos is a $7 billion chain. We recently announced Avalanche. That's a much faster blockchain.
That one's been growing very fast too.
Solana is one we're interested in. If you look at all the tokens we hold, all of those are delegated proof of stake blockchains, except for Bitcoin, which is obviously not, and Ethereum, which is not a delegated proof of stake. So all of those are strategically picked because we think there's a lot of interest in them. We like the development that's going on, as well as, the model fits with our kind of asset leveraging, which is, kind of like trying to be like a Bitcoin miner with a pool aspect, right, at the top.
I think that's a good focus too, what you're talking about, being the nodes for these blockchains yourself, and then, like you said, eventually you're going to open it up to where people can delegate tokens or coins to you guys, same way you would delegate with Kepler Wallet or Exodus, anything like that. You essentially will be able to delegate to BTCS, I'm assuming, directly through those decentralized wallets, or are you going to have it on your own site?
No. So our view is we want to focus on non-custodial, right?
Okay.
For a whole host of reasons.
Right.
I think it's, as we move to this, Web 3.0 and crypto, so many people have their tokens in at centralized exchanges. And I think that's actually much safer than it was, in 2014. Like when we got
Oh
started
yeah.
in the business in 2013, 2014, I mean, we had crypto at Mount Gox and got it out before, it blew up. But, it was really the Wild West. I
Yeah.
think now it's a lot safer having than it was having your crypto at these various exchanges. But overall, I think as tools improve for people to hold their own money, hold their own crypto, and keep it safe, I think we'll see a shift to that. And I think it'll also depend on kind of where you're located. But our goal is not to custody other people's crypto. The goal would be to have them, either if they already are custodying it themselves, or if it's an exchange, move it off, put it in your own wallet, whether that's a MetaMask wallet or whatever, however you want to store it, delegate it to our pools. And what we really want to do is make this a simpler process for, the average person, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
someone that's used to swipe left, swipe right, let me get in and just do something. I mean, if you want to go
Exactly.
stake Cardano or Tezos, if you're not a technical person and you go to these websites and you're looking at things with epochs and validation point, I mean, it's too much, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
what most people care about is, hey, I bought crypto, I bought it on an exchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I can generate yield on this. And there's lots of ways you can generate yield on crypto,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You can lend it, you can do
Mm-hmm.
DeFi, which is probably a higher yield than you would get staking, right? The downside is you have unknown counterparty risk. You could have rug
Mm-hmm.
pulls. I mean, you don't know what's on the other side of that, and so it's riskier. You can do better, right?
Yeah.
Alternatively, if you were to hold your crypto in your own wallet and stake it through a non-custodial platform, you don't have any counterparty risk with who you're staking with. The network technically for a lot of these pays you directly. And whoever's running that pool, you don't have to get into the technicalities. If they're doing it and they get a nice little fee for doing it, you get to hold your own money and earn, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we're focused on, is making that like stupid simple for someone to come in and move their money so that they hold it themselves, delegate it, earn a reward without and be able to
Oh
monitor what that is, right? Like,
yeah.
what are they
The
getting these in a very digestible fashion?
exactly the ease of use. That's what I'm always pushing, and why I'm so bullish on Cosmos, because the ease of use of that. I've tried Tron and a few other ones for staking, and I just wanted to bang my head against the wall. And I'm not that computer illiterate. I mean, I'm pretty computer illiterate, but not that not that
Yeah.
bad. But Cosmos is just so simple to use, the Kepler wallet and all of that. So they're the only ones who are about like that, as far as I've seen. So if you can add that easy use, like you're talking about, just that little step where you take the extra contract signing and all of that, the smart contract signing out of there to where they can just push stake and then boom, they're staking in your node, then yeah, that easy
Yeah.
use is very valuable to me because I don't think a lot of people are going to take the time to learn these systems. A lot of us who are already in cryptos, we've had to learn these systems. But the idea is, I think you even mentioned this the last interview, below everything, people doesn't look at, oh, this apartment was built by this with all these poles and the plumbing and electric. They just want to go in their apartment and live. So
Yep.
that's what's going to be the most valuable. I think that ease of use. And I know, like I said, I'm bullish on Cosmos. I like the other ones. Now, did you ever add Polkadot? I think you said you did add Polkadot.
We own. I'm pretty sure we own Polkadot. I'm just gonna, yeah. So we own Polkadot. We also own Kusama. That's a trickier one to spin up a node for, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the minimum, like if you want to run your own validator node, I think it's north of like 30 or 40 million dollars to have a validator node. So that's something. We own it, we like it. We also like Kusama, which is kind of its baby brother, little cousin, however you want to look at it, development platform, for Polkadot. So it is one that we own, that we're interested in. How we get involved in that, we'll have to, time will tell. I mean, one thing we're not really that interested in doing is just, buying crypto and then, giving it to someone else's pool to,
Right.
delegate someone else's pool to stake. I mean, we really want to be operating those nodes, because that comes down to asset leverage, right? If we can do that technical piece, and which we're doing on all the ones we announced, and we've been working on all the other ones that we own, right? If we can do that technical piece and make it easy for someone to come in, right? And we'll make it as easy as possible. I mean, for some of these, there may be some technical nuances where you have to kind of jump through a couple of hoops. But then if the interface, once you've got it done, gives you information that's digestible in one place across a couple different assets, right? That's pretty compelling. And basically what we're trying to do is, we announced that we opened our data analytics platform in the beta to the invite only beta earlier this month. And what that does is that now connects multiple exchanges. So you can connect your Coinbase exchange, your Kraken exchange, imports all the trade data via read-only API so that you can visualize its your performance, on a month-to-month basis over the years, et cetera. But where we really want to go with that is you could look at your centralized exchanges, your decentralized exchanges, your staking pools, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most interesting, where you can, if we can create a platform where you could come connect everything and see all of your crypto assets in one place, even though we're not doing the trading, but you can monitor it. And then we can show you and kind of ramp you into the pools that we support, right? Where that's where we would really, drive revenue and try to lever up, right? I mean, that to me is the most exciting part. I mean, that's obviously just as disclosure, that's kind of what we've disclosed. The goal is where we are today is kind of step one. Let's get these various things staked, right? Let's get our nodes up and running. Let's get good at the technical aspect. We've done that now for, I think we've announced 6 different tokens that we're staking. We're running our own nodes on those. That's kind of step one. In parallel, we're building these platforms where, the data analytics has been open. We've announced that we're going to try to integrate that with the staking. We may kind of rename it, rebrand it, but integrating those into one, seamless solution is kind of the longer term plan. In the interim, when we're still making revenue, staking with our own money, right? And that's like the equivalent business model of like a Bitcoin miner, right? They buy machines, they plug them in, they earn revenue. Like that's that's the model we are today. The running the pools and opening those up to the public, that'd be like having like a Bitcoin mining pool, but across, instead of just on one blockchain, we'd effectively have that on the others, right? Whether that's Cardano or
and then as tokens or coins are being delegated to you as a node, you do take a small commission. Like most nodes I've delegated with take a small commission. There's very few that do no commissions, and those are usually not very high holders of.
Yeah, and I think some of that depends on the blockchain. I think for some of them you have to. I think the lowest you can, and I'm sure someone out there would. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I believe Avalanche is the lowest you can set running a node is 2%. I don't think you can't set it any lower. So, and that may be wrong. That may be a different token. We've got so many of these going that I, and
I'm not that familiar with Avalanche. I've traded it a couple of times, but I'm not.
So that could be wrong, but there are minimums for. I guess a better way to say is there are minimums that you can, per design that you can put, right? So if you're going to run a pool, the lowest maybe 2%, right? And so that's not a lot, but
it's another revenue stream though that you.
It's no additional cost, right? So if you're running the pool, if you're like. From a pool operation standpoint, yes, you have to get users to use your pool, right? Right. From a pool operation standpoint, there's no additional cost to having more people delegate to you and get that 2% on their money, right? And from a user standpoint, it doesn't cost you, like you're paying 2% no matter where you go. It's kind of a market rate, right? So it doesn't, the value and some people may charge more, right? You can charge it higher than 2%, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen up to 10 on some. Yeah.
And it depends on each blockchain. It may be different. I think our goal would be to be competitive, right? Yeah. But also, and there's a balance, right? Like between, what's, obviously we want to maximize profits for our shareholders, and so to the extent when we start looking at how we set fees, I think we'll want to be competitive with our industry peers, right?
Yeah. Now, is providing liquidity to pools, is that something that you're going to look into, like for exchanges, because some of the exchanges have really high interest rates on providing liquidity, but it's also a lot riskier.
Yeah, that's not kind of in the game plan right now. I mean, I think,
Okay.
you know, we've got our plate pretty full as a company, right? Where,
That sounds
um,
like it.
between bringing on all the different nodes, um, the uplisting recently, just there's a lot of accounting that goes on
Oh
with
yeah.
this. It's not as, what you could do at home is much easier. Like everything we do needs to fit into, under, US GAAP. It needs to be audited by a, auditor that has certain standards. So
Yep.
it's a
Lot of
little bit more
regulation.
time consuming to ramp into these,
Yeah.
efforts, right? To kind of give an example of that, like, if you tell an auditor, you say, hey, we're reporting, I don't know, $10 million on our balance sheet. I'm just making that number up. The
Sure.
auditor they'll go check with the bank. Do you have $10 million? It's like, they'll go to Chase Manhattan and be like, hey, does this company, they say have 10 million, they have 10 million. And the response has to come from the bank to the auditor, right? That's how it works. Now you tell them you have crypto, it's an educational process for them, right? You say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, well, who do we send this to? Well, there's no people there.
Right.
It's a distributed ledger, and it's governed by code.
Yeah.
It's a, hey, we're going to get into a new blockchain. We need to show them, from money flowing from our account to the exchange account, from the exchange account to the wallet address, from the wallet address to the node, tracking it all on the blockchain. This is,
Mm-hmm. It's a
it's
process.
time consuming to, we can't flip up, a lot of these as fast as, the average person can just go do whatever they want. It's not quite as
Right.
simple for us. So,
Yeah, exactly. Because you're a public listed company on the Nasdaq. Nasdaq, of course, has quite a bit of regulations, and then of course across the world we've seen some countries like China kind of cracking down on cryptos. India has, but we consistently see with the government crackdowns that it makes people want to get into it more in those countries.
yeah. No, and I think, look, the China crackdown, I think, is great for the U.S., right?
Oh
If they
yeah, this
want,
is an opportunity.
this is a huge, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a gift, right? It's,
Yeah.
if, that analogy I made of, blockchains being a data, um, a global asset transfer system, right? If that's like, comes to fruition, right, and still early days, it's a huge opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Like to be the innovator around like the next internet web 3.0. Like if China doesn't want a hand in that, I don't think them, they don't completely want a hand in it, but they've kind of, you know, missed the concept of, hey, cryptocurrencies as a currency is one use. You can have a digital yuan, but blockchains as a base application, and the tokens being effectively like owning a piece of the internet, right? That's
Yeah,
kind of how I look at
exactly.
it,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Like,
yeah.
like it's if they don't want a hand in that, and we can come up with thoughtful regulation in the
More
U.S.
for
to,
us.
yeah, exactly, right? Like it's just so much better for U.S. Companies and other companies developing, right? If
Yeah.
they don't want a hand in
Well,
it.
and it sounds like Jerome Powell said that he wasn't planning on banning cryptocurrencies. So that's something. I just would like to see, and I won't get into politics, but I would just like to see more embracing of cryptos from our leaders. Because the El Salvador president right now, he's got to be living high on life after Bitcoin reaching these all new highs.
Yep.
With everything they did, switching to Bitcoin as their tender. And I think that's the
Yeah.
first example of seeing, especially if Bitcoin continues to run, you're going to see that country go from probably a third world country to a second, maybe even eventually first world if they continue to follow what they're doing. It's volatile as a tender, but I mean, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah. I mean, look, and it also, I think I don't really think of Bitcoin as a currency just because it's too volatile, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's what I say.
compare
It's kind
that
of
to,
volatile, but
the US dollar, or, let's call it some stable coins. But if you're in a country where the currency is more volatile than Bitcoin,
yeah,
Bitcoin all of a sudden seems pretty good, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, I don't pay for anything with Bitcoin, right? Like, it's like, it'd be like buying something with like a stock. Like, I'm not going to sell a stock to, go buy groceries, or, pay a bill at a restaurant.
hmm
More, just as I wouldn't, I could, but like, if a restaurant took Bitcoin, I'm not paying in Bitcoin. Like, or am I paying in Ethereum? Like, no, I'm not. That's, you know,
Yeah, you want to
so
keep the cryptos and give back all the U.S. dollars. Is that what you're
yeah.
getting
Well,
at?
I mean, look, it's for a system to work, it needs to be based on it, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you know, generally speaking, crypto really isn't accepted with most merchants, right? And if they did, like, it wouldn't make sense because they have, their rent, their electric bills. Like, the power company doesn't take Bitcoin, right?
Hmm.
So unless you had a whole system that was based on Bitcoin, where it was from, consumer down to every single, supplier, merchant, et cetera, that doesn't really work, right?
Hmm.
And so because of that, um, you can't have adoption as a currency, and because the volatility, it'll never get adopted like that, right? And
Yeah.
that's why you've seen, the stable coins pop up, right? And there's a
Yeah.
whole other issue there in terms of regulation, which I won't dive into, but
Yeah.
they serve a purpose. I mean, some of the interesting, like, I don't know if you follow Terra. That's a pretty interesting,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
There's been a moneymaker.
yeah, right. That's a good. I mean, that's a really interesting with UST.
USDT, yeah. I think it's every time UST is minted that Terra is burned or Luna's burned.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
It's basically like a balancing system, right? And
Hmm.
so that's a pretty interesting use case or solution to how you get stability versus a tether. What is it backed by? Is it backed by dollars? I mean, there was a article I just saw. It was at Hindenburg Research saying that $1 million you figure out what's what's behind it, right? What it's backed by. So
Right.
that's a pretty interesting token, right? In terms of their it's quite an elegant solution to trying to create
Yeah.
a stability in a cryptocurrency, so it could be used for day-to-day trade, trading like a currency versus, like buying a stock in like the next internet.
Yeah. Now I gotta ask. I know you're getting short on time. I gotta ask. Any thoughts of adding the golden Sheba Inu that's been capturing all the headlines?
It's not right now. It's kind of it's not on the roadmap, right? I think where we are today. We've got all the tokens we've purchased are really for the purpose of building out the blockchain infrastructure
Right.
segment, right? Running those nodes, running those validator nodes, kind of equivalent to like a Bitcoin miner.
Hmm.
If we can't do that with them, then it kind of falls into a different bucket of like, hey, do we want to put this in our treasury? And right now, that's not. We're just honestly, we're swamped, right? Like, we've got
Yeah.
things. It's a high class problem to have, right? To have things going well, and so
Yeah.
that's not.
First
That's
world
not on the
problems.
roadmap as of yet. Not to say we couldn't look to it, right? Our current focus is staying heads down, executing, and I think one of the biggest challenges we really have is just um, education on the difference between what a proof of stake network is, what a proof of
Yeah.
the difference between this and blockchain, Bitcoin, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but I see the use case as one of like gold, like I described before, right?
Right.
It could serve that use case very, very well, and is really compelling. But when I look at these other things of what's going on, and it's much earlier, right? All this stuff is
Hmm.
much earlier in development. I see a much bigger market opportunity for the future of society, similar to what the internet did, and it's just much
Hmm.
earlier days. And that's kind of where our focus is right now. There's no one, as far as U.S. public companies doing this, we're it, right? Like,
Yeah.
Coinbase does it, but apart from Coinbase, I think like 75-85% of the public companies focused on crypto, at least the U.S. ones, are focused on Bitcoin mining,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's what I've seen a lot of. Yeah.
No,
So
so that's kind of that's where our head's at, right? Like, if we can secure these networks that have a bigger addressable market opportunity, whether it be a little bit further down the road, that's where we want to focus. And it would be really hard to compete with the Bitcoin miners out there, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
it's we did that. We were the first company to mine Bitcoin in 2014, and 2015 helped Mara get started in Bitcoin mining in 2017, and it's there's an opportunity there. I think I see a bigger opportunity on the smart contract based blockchain side.
Yeah.
Right,
I believe we've got a lot of interrupters for every single sector starting to come out in the blockchain world. Different ways for data to be transferred and all of that. And I even think that some really smart people should start thinking about maybe using blockchain for voting in multiple countries. Might be a decent idea.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's there's no reason blockchain voting shouldn't be the way it's done, right? I mean, if
exactly.
You have a phone with biometric capabilities, right? Everyone's got a fingerprint scan, a retina scan on their phone, and it's pretty commonplace these days. Why shouldn't you be able to, biometrically, have your ID card, you scan in and you vote, and then it's done. It's on the blockchain. Everyone can read it. Everyone can see.
Mm-hmm.
You can see there's no questions. We're just not there yet, right? I mean, that's going to take, I don't know, 5, 10, 15. It's going to take the next generation of really what it's going to take. It's going to take my kids that are going to grow up with this. When they get older and they start filling these, their generation fills these roles that are, the backbone of society, that are in government. They'll be like, it's crazy not to have blockchain, right? Like, why would we not have blockchain voting? Why would we, it's not going to happen though until there's a, kind of a generational change in leadership, right? Because they just don't, it's, I look at myself, I'm either a little bit on the, not that old, but like, I grew up with email, right? And when I actually grew up, I didn't have a phone, right? Like there were no cell phones when I grew up. It was like I had a Game Boy, right?
Yeah, me too.
So, my parents they use technology in a very different way than I use it, right? My kids use it in a very different way than I do today. And I think, that change, just takes time.
Yeah. And that's all it's going to take is just time. The more people, though, that start adopting cryptos, getting the power of currency back into the people's hands, that's what we got to do as crypto advocates. At least that's what I consider myself. Try to educate as many people as I can. And Charles, I appreciate you coming and joining us again, and look forward to talking to you more in the future. And I appreciate the work you're doing in the space, trying to educate people and actually offer good opportunities for investors who might be a little skittish of, jumping into crypto straight away. Your company is some exposure on the stock market for cryptos, as it is the first and pretty much still the only pure crypto play on the U.S. stock market, now uplisted to the Nasdaq and adding multiple proof-of-stake blockchains and nodes that you're running. Sounds great, man. I wish you the best of luck. If you got any last words for us?
Ben, thank you so much for having me. It's I think it's always fun to be able to get on, help try to educate people on how valuable blockchains can be in the future, right? I mean, the jury's still out, but I think things are looking pretty compelling. And obviously, tell the BTCS story is always fun as well. So again, really appreciate you having me on your show, and hopefully you'll have me back.
Oh, absolutely, anytime, Charles. That's it, guys. Appreciate everybody joining us as always. Stay safe out there. Until next time.